Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about evaluating terminal points on the unit circle. We will also review the reciprocal functions as well. So get ready to unlock the power of math together. Let's dive right in. So remember that the unit circle is a circle with a radius of 1 and it is centered at the origin. So if we say that theta is a real number, that's an angle. So if we make our triangle here, we'll have theta that is centered at the origin, and we are going to have x, y be the point on your unit circle. So here would be our x comma y, which means that this is our x distance and this is our y distance. And always remember that the radius of 1 is going to be that hypotenuse with the radius of 1. Now, in order for us to find our 6 trig functions, we're going to look again at SOH, CA, TOA. Now, when we look at this, we have our theta or our angle, and now that we have all 3 sides that are labeled just as a general piece of information, we can use SOH, CA, TOA. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so that is y over 1. Cosine is going to be adjacent, which is x over 1. And tangent is going to be opposite over adjacent, which is y over x. Now remember, with our reciprocal functions, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So all we're going to do is flip that fraction. So that becomes 1 over y. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So that becomes 1 over x. And cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, which becomes x over y. So these x's and y's that you see are coming again from our point, which is x comma y, and the x represents, of course, the x coordinate, and the y represents our y coordinate. So we're going to use this information to help us to evaluate the 6 trig functions at any other angle. So here we're going to look at 135 degrees. So the first thing you want to do when you have a question like this is figure out where 135 degrees is. So 135 degrees is right here. That is in quadrant number 2. The next thing you want to do is figure out what that terminal point is, because this is the angle that's on your unit circle. And that would be negative root 2 over 2, comma, positive root 2 over 2. Again, this is our point, so you have x and y, so we can use the information that we just found in our previous slide and help us to evaluate each of the 6 trig functions. Now, with sine, what you're going to remember is that is the y coordinate, so that's y over 1, or just the y coordinate. So I'm going to take my y coordinate, and if I were to evaluate the sine of 135 degrees, that is root 2 over 2. If I wanted to find cosine, I'm going to look at the x. So I'm going to look at the x coordinate, that is negative root 2 over 2. If I'm looking for tangent, tangent is y over x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my y, so root 2 over 2, and I'm going to divide it by negative root 2 over 2. Now, if I have root 2 over 2 over the same thing, that simplifies to 1. And because you have a negative there, it's going to simplify to negative 1. Now here for cosecants, we're going to look at our reciprocal function. So cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So what I'm going to do is sine is my y value. So I'm going to flip sine, or flip the y coordinate. And that becomes 2 over root 2. Okay, so for secant, you are going to flip the x coordinate, because that's cosine, and secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So I'm going to have 2 over negative root 2. And for cotangent, I'm going to flip my tangent, which is again the same thing as just understanding that that is just now x over y. So if I have negative 1 over 1, if I flip that, still simplifies and stays as negative 1. Okay, here we have a different angle. You have 270. Now 270 we know is down here. That has a terminal point of 0 and negative 1. Remember that you have x and y. So again, let's figure out each of our 6 trig functions here. Sine is our y coordinate, so that's -1. Cosine is our x coordinate, that is 0. Tangent is y over x, so that is -1 over 0, which we know is undefined. Cosecant, I am flipping my y, so again, if I put this over 1 and I flip-flop, that's going to stay at -1. Secant, I'm flipping my x, or my cosine, so I have over 1, and if I flip, I have 1 over 0, which is undefined. If I have cotangent, again, I'm flipping my tangent, or I'm doing x over y, which is the same thing as if I were to flip. This becomes 0 over -1, which simplifies to 0. Okay, so here is how you're going to evaluate your trig functions now. We're going to be giving you any one of the 6 trig functions, giving you angles, whether they are in degrees right now or future videos will show you how to do this with radians. You're still going to, again, take that same process, figure out where your angle is, look at what the terminal point is for that angle, and then evaluate your function. So here we have 90 degrees. 90 degrees is right here. Our point is 0, 1. We are looking at tangent. Tangent we know is y over x. So y over x is 1 over 0, which is the same thing as undefined. Now we have cotangent. We're still finding this of 90, which is 0, 1. Cotangent is x over y, which is 0 over 1, which is the same thing as 0. We are looking at -240 degrees. So again, you can take -240, add 360 degrees to it. That will still get you the positive answer, so you can figure out where that is on your unit circle. Or what you can do is you could take -240 and you can go to the positive 240 and then flip over your x-axis, which will then land you in the same spot. So what that's going to do is positive 240 is right here, and if I flip over the x-axis this way, my angle is going to be right here. And that's going to land at the 120 degree spot. So that terminal point is -1/2 and positive √3 over 2. Now if I want to find secant, secant I know is the reciprocal of cosine. So I'm going to flip my cosine, or flip my x. So that becomes 2 over -1, which is the same thing as -2. So here you have 60 degrees. So again, you could take -60, add 360 to it to figure out what that positive angle is, so you know where it is on your unit circle. Or you can go to the positive 60, which is here, flip over my x-axis. That means I'm going to land right here. And what that means is actually I'm going to land in that 300 degree spot, right? That's where I'm really landing. And that terminal point is positive 1/2 and -√3 over 2. Now if I have cotangent, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the tangent, which is the same thing as me saying, hey, I'm going to do x over y. Now x is 1/2 divided by -√3 over 2. So what happens there is that my 2's will simplify, and I'll be left with 1 over -√3. So 1 over -√3, that would be my final answer. Again, if you have to rationalize, multiplying the top and the bottom by the √3 and then simplifying. Thanks for learning with me today. Unlocking the power of math, one problem at a time. Don't forget to like and subscribe for future notifications on Algebra 2 videos. See you in the next lesson.